I'm Natalie Rogers with Tat Your Own Adventure, and in this video I'm going to show you the throne ring. I'm going to show it a couple different ways. First, I'm going to show the easiest way to do a throne ring off of a ring, which is to do a self-closing mock ring with a throne ring. So to do a self-closing mock ring, we're going to set up our finger loom like normal. We're going to leave a loop of our core thread. I like to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, so I actually will put in an empty shuttle, or I will put in a bulb safety pin, some kind of thing that will stay and hold it. A paper clip would work that's dangling, just something to keep it so that if I accidentally tug on my core thread, I'm not going to pull that loop all the way out and not be able to come back and put my core thread through my loop. So I'm just going to let a shuttle dangle there. I'm going to do just one throne ring off of this self-closing mock ring. So I'm going to do 8 stitches and then I'll do a throne ring. 1, 2, 3, 4. We do throne rings off of chains all the time. So that's your normal ring and chain motif. But it's when we go to off of rings that it can be a little more challenging. So this is going to create rings that are the same color as the self-closing mock ring that they're coming off of. So here's 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I got my 8 stitches that are the start of my self-closing mock ring. I'm then going to pull the chain loom off my fingers and turn it into a ring loom so I can tat my throne ring. So I'm going to tat a ring of 4 picot 4. So there's 4. I'll do a picot and then 4 more stitches. Okay, that finishes that ring. So then I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to set my chain loom back up to finish my self-closing mock ring. So that was my throne ring. So I set my chain loom back up and I'm going to do my 8 stitches that remain on my self-closing mock ring. That's 5. I need 3 more stitches. I need a little more space in my finger loom there. Here's 3, 2, and 1. Okay, that's all the stitches that I want in my self-closing mock ring. So at this point, I'm going to take the shuttle that was holding my loop open, move it out to make sure my loop is not twisted, put my shuttle through, and tighten it down. And there is a self-closing mock ring with a throne ring on top of it. So that is one way to do throne rings off of rings. I'm going to tat a chain in between this and the next sample. And I'm going to direct tat, so I'm not going to do flip stitches. So if you're watching, that's what I'm doing. It's called direct tatting. I'm going to act like I'm on the second half of a split ring, so I'm going to start with the second side. Okay, then I'm going to start my ring. So this is going to be a ring with a loop tatted throne ring off of it. So I'm going to tat again 8 stitches. And at this point, I need to give myself a lot of thread. Because what I am doing is I am making a loom with my ring thread, my ring loom thread. So I'm making an additional ring loom with my ring loom thread, which means that I need a lot of thread to play with. Because it's a loop tatted ring, I'm going to end up with a loop. So I make my ring loom, and then I'm going to just stick my shuttle again in to make sure I don't lose my original ring at all. And then I just need a loop that I'm going to tat with. You can either finger tat like this, or if you have another spare shuttle, here, this is a fun one. This was for the Shuttlebirds workshop last year. Kathleen Minetti made them. They're pretty cool. I won a theme contest with it, so that's how I got my shuttle, my special shuttle. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to tat with that guy. So we'll see the parrot come across. Let's see, I did the first half of the stitch already, so I'll do the second half of the stitch. And you're tatting your ring like normal, except you're tatting it with a loop. So your core thread is the loop. I'm going to do again 4 picot 4, just like the other one. So it can show you that this is 2 different ways to do the same construction. So you just do the one that you find easiest for you, or you learn them both and just choose when you decide to use the different ones. Again, you have to have a lot of thread for this. So if you're working on a project and you only have just enough thread to make a ring thrown off of a ring, then you probably want to use the self-closing mock ring with the thrown ring. But if you've got lots of thread to work with, then you can totally do an actual ring with a loop tatted ring. So I have finished my loop tatted ring stitches. So at this point, that loop that I've been tatting with, I'm going to pull on. And I want to pull on it. Hang on, I got twisted somehow. Let me figure out what twisted. Because I should not have that thread through here. Okay, so apparently I wasn't paying attention and I ended up with my loops twisted. So I'm actually going to undo all of those stitches to fix that loop twist. Okay, so I'm going to retro tat here. Which means I'm going to actually just pull. The nice thing about a loop tatted ring is it's made from a loop. So if you find the right cord to just pull on, I can take and I can pull that loop all the way out. Look, it's gone. So that is a benefit of a loop tatted ring. If you make a mistake, just find your loop and you can pull it all the way out, especially if the mistake was back at the beginning. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that these things are not all twisted in what I am trying to do. Okay, which means this thread is now in the right spot. I can put this back in. Okay, so I have my loom thread is here, and then I'm getting a loop and just pinching that. Okay, now I don't have any weird twists. This should be fine to go now. Okay, 4 picot 1. And now you know how to retro tat a loop tatted ring. It's probably the most fun ring to retro tat because all you have to do is pull. There's 4. this is a very pretty shuttle. It's a little hard to work with just because I keep catching myself on the pretty gems and the parrot, which is actually a tatted parrot. I don't know if you can tell, but that is actually tatted and then attached. So she did an amazing job on the shuttle. It is a very cool shuttle. There's 4 stitches a picot. I need more space in my ring. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so then I'm going to detach the shuttle I was using to make that loop tatted ring. And I'm going to pull on the loop. That pulls on my main thread. I don't want that, so I want it to pull on the one that closes the ring. There's the one that closes the ring. So I close the ring, and then I take my shuttle that I've been making my ring with, and I put that core thread through, because what I want to do then is pull this side, and that's going to start closing that loop that I was tatting with. Am I closing my loop? Yeah, there we go. Closing that loop. And that loop then catches around my core thread so that it doesn't pull itself all the way out. So I need to make sure that it's snug, but doesn't pull my core thread back up into the ring, because I still want my ring to be able to work. So I'm going to get my ring loom back. Right now it's gigantic because, again, I was using all that extra thread to do my loop tat. So I'm going to make sure I have fingers in here so I don't pull it all the way closed. And then I can resize it to how I actually like it on my hand. And we'll do our 8 stitches that remain. So it's going to take me a second to walk my shuttle back to a good length, because all of that extra thread I have to wind back on. A good almost 2 meters length of extra thread. Okay, that is a more workable length now. Okay, so then I'm going to do my 8 stitches to finish off my ring. One more stitch. Just didn't have quite enough space. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to close my ring. And I'm going to set these 2 side by side and zoom in so that you can see. I've got my self-closing mock ring with the throne ring, and then I've got my ring with a loop tatted ring, and they end up with the same kind of construction. I do notice, and it might have just been my tensioning, that this one is slightly tighter than this one. That might be just the nature of a ring. It can really cinch on itself, where this one kind of feels slightly more open at the base than this one does. And then my loop tatted ring looks a little bit tighter, or a little bit thicker, I guess I would say, than the other. And that's just because it has 2 core threads instead of 1 core thread. So you do end up with a slightly thicker ring with a loop tatted ring, but they both can achieve the same thing. We've got what looks like a ring or an actual ring with a ring off the top of it. So that is throne rings off of a self-closing mock ring or off of a ring. Where the self-closing mock ring is a normal ring. Off of the ring, it's a loop tatted ring. The last thing I'm going to show you is throne rings off of a split ring. So the first half of the split ring is going to be just like we just did off of the ring, where we'll do a loop tatted ring off of the first side of our split ring. So I'm going to do five stitches, and then I'm going to throw a ring. Okay, So again, I'm doing a loop tatted ring, so this is where I need a lot of thread. So I'm going to unwind my shuttle. And make my ring thread, loom thread a lot bigger so that I can start a new ring loom thread. And grab a pinch to tat with. Sticking something to hold my old ring so that the original ring, so that I don't lose that. And grabbing a shuttle to tat with so I don't have to finger tat. I'm going to do 4 picot 4. Space in there. Okay, there's 2, 3, 4. Use the loop that I just tatted with to find out which one will close my ring. Close my ring up. Take the shuttle I've been working with, put it through my ring, then take the other shuttle that was just the placeholder off and figure out which one is going to close that loop that I was tatting with. And pull that up snug, but not so tight that I pull my core thread into my loop tatted ring. There we go. I'm all snug. Then get the excess out of my ring loom so that I can finish 5 more stitches for the first half of my split ring. Shorten my thread back up so it's more manageable. Really don't want to have to pull that much thread through to make a stitch. There we go. Okay, so then I'm gonna do my last 5 stitches here for this half of the split ring. Setting it up for the second half of my split ring now. So these are unflipped stitches, starting with the second half first. There we go. Size is better. There we go. Okay, snug that one down right next to the last one. I'm gonna tat 5 stitches, 5 double stitches. Okay, then I'm going to throw my ring off of this side, so I actually have to flip my work here. If I'm worried about front side, back side tatting, I'm on the back side, so I'm going to want to start with the second half of the double stitch and then the first half for my ring. If you're not worried about front side, back side, then just do normal stitch. There's 3, and here's 4 stitches, and then we want a picot. And then our remaining 4, there's 2. Three, 4, close that ring, get back to the front of my work, back to my second half of my split ring, and continue with my last 5 stitches. So that is a thrown ring off of the second half of the split ring. If I was working in 2 threads of the same color, you can get it so it looks like a ring with the same thing coming off of both sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. These throne rings are always going to be the same color as the thread that you were using. So then I've got both sides done. I can get that back in my pinch and close it. So there is a split ring with throne rings. Off the first side it was a loop tatted ring. Off the second side it's just a normal ring. There is one more type of throne ring that I can show you, and that is if you take and carry your second thread with your ring, you can actually throw off a ring that's a different color. So I'm going to show that as my last thing for showing you throne rings. So let me zoom back out. There we go. So I've set up the loom. I'm going to be working on a teal ring, and then I'm going to throw off a purple ring. So in order to do that, I have to pass both of my threads through. A lot easier to do with smaller shuttles than what I'm currently working with, but I can manage. So I'm going to do 4 stitches. I'm going to do 5 stitches, and then I'm going to throw off my purple ring. So 1, 2, 3. It's the first half of 3. There's 3. Four. There's 5 stitches. So then I'm just going to set the teal ring aside for a moment. I'm going to bring out my purple, make sure I have it tensioned the way I want it, so I don't end up with a gap. And then I'm going to tat 4 picot 4. Close that ring. And then resume for my last 5 stitches with the teal thread. Helps when both shuttles are about the same length for the double up that I do for dropping them through. Tatting with 2 shuttles can be a little bit tricky. You can always stick one to the other with ticky tack. It's a lot easier to do with smaller shuttles than it is with the giant Tatsy and Starlight shuttle that I've got right now. You can also always just send one through and then the other and have them follow. just a matter of preference. Or if you've got one of those double bobbin shuttles, you can stick both bobbins onto the double bobbin and then just tap with that, because that'll make them both the core. I'll have to show that in a video at some point. There's 3. Here's 4. And my last stitch here. There's 5. So that is all my stitches. So then I'm going to close my ring after I detangle. I got a little bit twisted here. Just be easier to pull when it's not all wrapped around the purple. There we go. Okay, pull it closed with my teal. Tension it how I want it. Tug with my purple as well, because the purple was also through there. And so then on that one, you have a teal ring with a purple throne ring where we carried the purple through in order to throw off that ring. So you can also do color, different color throne ring. It just takes a little more because you're encapsulating the thread color of whatever your throne ring is going to be within your thing. So that is throne rings. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Thanks.